Hi guys, Tugo here with a new video, and this video will be my 2v2 tier list video for World of Warcraft Dragonflight Season 2. And I didn't make it 2v2, I think a 2v2 one for previous season because I wasn't really playing too much 2v2. I didn't really like the meta, but weirdly enough, I do like this meta. I do like how the game feels right now. I do feel like 2v2 is a great environment also for a lot of casual players that needs to learn PvP. I will make a video in the future and explaining why I think so, but I want to make a tier list for the people that do love 2v2. And also I do see a lot of like hype around the double DPS, although it's very risky, especially at higher elo where healer DPS is probably the best, but there are a few comps where you can play like that. I might make a video about it in the future, more focus about 2v2. Obviously I will do also one for 3v3 and also one for solo shuffle, so do stay tuned. This tier list will be based around no tier set pretty much right now, because no one really has a tier set except if they buy like a full set from raids and they have them kind of money to do that. I guess you can. There's like one boomkin on the ladder that actually does that, did that, and it's pretty much cheese, but you have to spend a lot of money for that. But anyways, that's out of the way. Let's talk about classes and specs. Frost DK. Now they are pretty much very much affected by the crit changes, but they do get a few buffs here and there, especially on the base damage. And the more buffs you get on base damage, the better it becomes, like amplified by mastery, but also by crit. And that's something that Frost DK has. I'm just afraid about the nerfs that they got for Pillar of Frost this Wednesday, so I'll kind of overshoot it, like a prediction for that. Overall, Frost DK is not the best 2v2 spec because they don't have a mortal wound effect, or like the unholy DKs, they don't have like a necrotic wound, like the necrotic wound PvP done, so they do struggle into, I would say, comps where they have like heavy mortal strike effects, like for example a rogue, like assassination rogue, which is not very popular right now, I can give you that, or into bursty comps, like for example subtlety rogue with a frost mage. They might just get killed just because of a good reset. They might also struggle versus warriors in general, just warriors having a better MS effect, especially with dampening. 2v2 starts at 30% if I'm not mistaken. So it's very ramping, and at Frost DK they either go for a one-shot, which is again stoppable by any melee class that has a disarm, and now even Survival Hunter got that, and that was one of the better matchups for Frost DK, but right now it's even more harder for them to actually deal with it. So for me, I'm going to put Frost DK in C tier because it's not like terrible, it is underperforming. I think if they get like somewhat of a mortal wound effect, or somewhat like a like cis bis, something that they can actually use to actually reduce healing or incoming healing or whatever, they can actually do that, then it might be better. But right now it doesn't really have that, and a few specs don't really have that, but they have better things going on for them, right? So I'm going to talk about them once we get to those specs. Unholy DK, they got a nerf on their zombies because they did like 20% per zombie, and they could like prepare like 2 and even sometimes 3 zombies with a lot of haste. They could prepare for a lot, and you can get blown up by Unholy DK. And Unholy DKs that are playing with a Mistweaver, for example, or a Mistweaver just in general, they are very popular and they are very good. But I think it's mostly cheese. People do not just know how to play around it, and pretty much if you see like a lot of circles around you, the best thing to do is just walk out of it. And if you're stunned and such, then of course you're going to get hit, but then it's time to get like a DR on yourself, right? Damage reduction. So you need to really think about it. And I think right now it's more cheese. People do not know what's going on. But if you are like me, a multi-class, a multi-author, and you actually like read every single patch and every single like tooltip on every single class or spec, then you just understand what is going on and you can just like react on it. It's very reactable as well, and also kiteable, by the way, very kiteable. So for me it's going to be B tier. I know I'm very harsh. I'm pretty sure like the top like DKs are going to get like top 10 or top 20 best players in 2v2, but that's them, right? I'm talking about like the average player that is going to play Unholy Decay between like I would say 1.4k and 2.4k or even higher. Those Unholy Decays are pretty much B tier-ish. You can still win games because you're better than the other opponent, but I think it like equal skills and like not a hard counter to your spec, you're going to normally win versus Unholy Decays. Like again, warriors are going to stomp them normally. Whenever I'm playing Fury Warrior, and like right now I'm playing a lot of Fury Warrior because I want to train for my 4 set. I feel like I'm like killing DKs pretty quickly, so for me it's still B tier. Although they have a PvP talent, I think you don't have pots to use that PvP talent, unfortunately. You only have 3 PvP talents, and Holy DKs are like one of the specs where you have a lot of choices, where Frost DK, yeah, they have more choices, to like less choices to make, like more choices for more spots, I would say, because again, it's not like Unholy DKs where it's like allocated towards multiple PvP talents, like only 3 good ones, and then you have like other silly ones. Unholy DKs are having a lot more choices. Having Demon Hunter, the ones I played against, they were good. They lacked damage though. I felt like they lacked damage, except the Paladin spam that he could occasionally do, although it's not now going to get nerfed, so good luck to do that. I feel like it's very, very cheesy. The ones I see where they can kill us, it's often not they're doing like a Paladin spam with a PI. And I feel like that's just not enough to make it very good. Of course, they have like some redeeming effects, like for example having a lot of like the defensives, they can darkness their healer, for example. You have a lot of mobility, a lot of CC, and you can win because of that. And that's why maybe I will put it A tier, because for me it's better than DK just in general, although very lowish A tier. For me, if Unholy DK was C tier and Frost DK in D tier, it would be definitely B tier. But for me, I have to put some integrity into the tier list, and I would like to keep it like that. So for me, having Demon Hunter does deserve an A tier, although very lowish, very lowish. So for me, still a good spec. I think a few buffs here and there, and it might be better. But right now, Phalanx is pretty much the only thing that is going to kill you if you're playing with a priest with PI, for example. Balance Druid, very strong, very strong. I'm going to put it in S tier because for me, I think it's one of the most OP specs in the game right now. Now, does it deserve a nerf? We will have to see for the 4 sets of everyone. I feel like Balance Druid got a lot of buff, like Gold Ring doing some crits, like they do kind of the same. They're like, it's whenever you get a star surge on you, you feel like you're getting hurt more than often. It is because Gold Ring now, which is the proc for star surge, is actually doing a lot of damage. Sometimes it does like ×2. For example, do a star surge of 80k, a Gold Ring of 80k, so you get a hit for 1 global 160k, and that is what is actually chunking you. It's not like not only the star surges, but all the procs that is behind. Also power of denizens, like the dragon fae thing does 10k per tick, then all the dots are rolling, and then you have like even how it's called, Starfire and Wrath actually doing some good damage right now. Again, I'm very like happy that boomies have more than just like spamming dots and running away and such. Now I feel like in this current meta, if Balance Druid is very good in 2s, it means that it is very strong in 3s too. So it's one of the specs that really dislike to face in a 2v2, especially with a healer. Like they are crazy. Like survivability is also very nice, and everything is very nice for them. And yes, you can win versus them, but I feel like the damage is very much unavoidable, very much. Feral Druid, because they're not really costing too, so it's very hard. You cannot even proc Quick Arc because they're not really costing, and whenever they do, you feel like you have to kick the cyclone or else you're probably dead. So that's more or less the choices you have. Feral Druid, very strong. I'm going to be honest, I'm very impressed. I want to put it in S tier. Again, I'm not biased. I play specs that are actually very bad into Feral Druids, especially Feral Druid Disc Priest. But I'm going to put in S tier. I'm going to probably revise myself afterwards. Melees are first and range are second, and then it's healer. So it doesn't mean that Boomy is worse than Feral Druid. It is just like separated because it's very hard to judge a caster and a melee together. But I wanted to just make one tier list and not like milk it. It's stupid. So I want to do just one tier list for 2v2 and not melee, range, and healer, which I could do that, but I'm not going to do that. I want the viewers to have like one big tier list. They can watch it at their own time, and I think that's good like that. So for me, Feral Druid is S tier right now. It might be just high A tier though. We will have to see. Again, I have a tier list in my head, but I'm a bit like thinking to myself what is strong and what is not strong. Resto Druid is for me one of the like, again, I made a video about it. It's king of 2v2. They have now damage, they have the CC, Cyclone is unnerved, by the way, you have a lot of CC changes. Well, Cyclone is the only one, at least one of the most popular CCs that is just not nerfed, and you cannot dispel it except for a master spell, or you can trinket it. It's very powerful, especially with a Survival Hunter. Survival Hunter has a lot more tools right now, and it just is one of the specs that is very scary to face and also very hard to kill if they play correctly. If they're playing like in your face without host and such, just switch on them. But they have also ways to actually run away or be annoying, and they can just cast Cyclone in your face, and that's it. You can interrupt it, but if you do miss, they have a precog, so good luck with that. So that's pretty much very strong. Rest of the Druid very strong. Now with Devastation Evoker in 2v2, it's cheesy. I don't know what to say. You can only kill like whenever you're bursting, and outside of that you're very squishy and very catchable as well. Very kickable as well when now you know how to play against one. Like, do not like let him like full cast they did like the spells onto you, just kick it, right? So for me, Devastation, I mean, there is a lot of specs that can just delete you. Like a subtlety rogue is just going to eat your face, man. Like, it's insane. So for me, should I put it in D tier? I'm going to put it in C tier because I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's like garbage. I think it has something going on because you can go for one shot, and that can happen. You can do 2v2s with a sub rogue and you can make it work, I would say. Often not you play with a healer because a caster without like a healer is very like ballsy, I would say. But it's still around one shots, and one shots are counterable if you know how to play against one. And Devastation Evoker is pretty much a lot weaker because of their force set being gone, and now the force set that they are going to get is probably good as well. But right now they don't have a force set, so like only stats, and only stats is not enough to make it feel like a real class. And for me, it's still not a real class. In contrary with Preservation Evoker, which I'm going to put it in B tier. I think it's just not a great 2v2 healer. I feel like in Trees or in Soul Shuffle it's a lot better because they have a lot more tools and they can spread a lot more healing. And since there's only like 2 targets, yourself and your mate, I feel like it's also very easy to kill a Preservation Evoker. It's also like they can kite, but a lot of specs can just deal damage while they're kiting, right? So for me, still B tier. It's not terrible, it's like average to good. B tier is for me good or average, depends on how you see it. For me it's good. A tier is meta and S tier is god tier, for example. But Preservation Evoker has a problem where in 2s they do seem just a lot weaker. I could even put it in C tier, but I feel like a healer in general is like in an okay spot in 2s. Like in 2s, it's pretty much dampening from the get-go, and I feel like Preservation Evoker, they do suffer from it, but they have ways to be very strong. Like for example, Sleepwalk is one of the best CCs in the game with Cyclone. They have damage, they can participate very much. They can also one-shot someone, by the way. But the loss of foresight is very hard for them. So in the comment section below, please do know, again, I'm not like having like epic science. I can be wrong, so please do note it on the comment section below and do explain why. Not say like Togre you're wrong, but explain why I'm wrong, and to a certain extent we can agree to something or we can disagree to something. We are going to talk about it in the comment section below. Again, like the video, very much appreciated for algorithmic things. especially for YouTube. BM Hunter, like Survival Hunter, like not MM. MM is quite terrible. MM, I'm going to put it in D tier. It feels just bad right now in 2s and in 3s. I feel like 2s is better, but in 3s, I don't know what's wrong, if it's a bug or something, but it does just no damage. It does die really quickly. There are also nerfs on CC, so do not touch MM for now, except if you're doing like double MM shenanigans and do damage and such. But right now, I feel like there is no real factor where MM is like a threatening spec. I feel like every other spec has a chance to do damage CC and such, and MM is like, I would even say worse than a Frost Mage, Frost DK. BM Hunter though, S tier, and Survival Hunter, S tier. I'm going to explain why. BM Hunter, their damage is still very much high. They are like untouched. Now you can kill the pets, but guess what? Now you can actually not interrupt their casts. They can just rest the pet in front of you for 3 seconds. It's uninterruptible because it's a physical ability now. Good luck. Good luck. You will need it. I think I don't know how they can actually nerf it without butchering it. They do not have a lot of builds to go for, so whenever they do whenever they go for a nerf, it's not like BM can like hide into another like build, because that's not existing. I do play BM, not this season though. I think I'm a bit like I want to focus on 3 characters only, because I'm also playing League of Legends. Again, second channel, League of Legends. If you want to check that out, please do. Survival Hunter, I feel like the same. They are very strong now, and killing the pet is not enough anymore, because you can just cast it in front of you. Of course, you can stun it, but you're using a lot of like resources to just stop it. And I feel like an interrupt was a good thing, but now not anymore. They have a lot of damage now. They have a disarm, so even versus like matchups where you would think they would lose, like for example versus a warrior, like a fury warrior for example, they simply do not lose. Demon Hunter, they're like, it's free low for them, because they can just like CC the Demon Hunter and go for the healer. They have a lot of damage, and I'm not even counting about the Forced, because the Forced will make them even more strong with wildfire bombs. I think personally, Survival Hunter is probably the best medium right now, I think. Nah, I don't think so. We will see at the end of the tier list. And BM Hunter is, I think, better than Balanced Druid, although you don't really see a lot of BM Hunters in 2s right now. At least I don't see them. But I think at the end of the season you will see a lot more BM Hunter, because it just is like one of the specs that you do climb at the end of the season. And it's very, very strong, especially with the pairing with resto druids. And Disc Priest as well, like PI is such a great ability for them. Arcane Mage. They do seem fun. They do seem workable. I do not see them in 2s though. I'm going to put it in B tier, simply because in 3s I feel like they're strong, and in 2s they could be strong with a rogue, but what I see is most likely frost mages and sometimes a fire mage. I do not see arcane mage. I think it's just one of the most complicated specs as well. You only have one school pretty much to do damage, and yes, you have precog to help you bait them into like getting 15% haste and such, but I feel like classes in general are like not the best thing going on in 2s, because you do have a pillar. Often not, you can just run around it and go whenever you have a go, and they don't have like a lot of defensives, like only one ice block. And yes, Master of Time and such, Alter Time and such are interesting abilities for mages, but so do they have it on Frost Mage and Fire Mage. For me, B tier. And Fire Mage, for example, I'm also going to put it in B tier. I think it's a very strong spec. But do I need to judge Fire Mage based on like the 2v2 comp, which is Rogue Mage, or do I like judge it like on face value, purely about the spec? And I would say, if I have to judge for the whole comp, then I would say that Frost Mage is probably the better one going in to 2v2 with a Rogue. And that's why I'm going to put it in good. I think it's a good spec, especially since now I think there is like a niche where you can do a lot of damage with Fireball and such. But I think Frost Mages are probably better. So for me, Frost Mage is A tier, although they are pretty much carried because of the damage of Subtlety Rogue. I think like 2v2 right now, Rogue Mage Subtlety Rogue has insane damage. You're going to see that again. Spoiler alert, I think it's S tier. Again, I'm going to talk about it in the rogue section. Again, timestamps if I'm like not forgetting about it. Mistweaver is S tier because fist weaving is still alive actually, although very much nerfed. They are very safe. They have a lot of throughput. I don't know what to say. It feels like they really want Mistweaver to be strong this season, and also for season 1. Like I think, like since 10.1, Mistweavers are really strong. And season 2 didn't really make them even like weak. They made them pretty much more usable for many players. And I think right now Mistweavers are definitely one of the best healers. You can probably like put them on the same level. It always depends on which spec or class you're playing, right? If you're playing a caster, I feel like Mistweavers really are difficult to deal with because they have pillars, they can just run away. They have a lot of tools to actually like reduce your DPS. So for me, Mistweaver is really strong. Windwalker, they have one-shots right now. They do have it. Although I think the forces will be probably like they will be stronger. I think Windwalker is just overall a great spec in 2s. It always was, especially with like let's say a resto druid, but I prefer with a disc priest or with a holy priest. They have a lot of ways to do damage. Now, is it going to be any higher than A tier? I don't think so. I think they are better than having Demon Hunter because they have big damage, and often not 2v2 with CC and big damage isn't enough to win. Defensives wise, you're not dealing with a second DPS, so you can still survive. And they have a lot of self heals as well, although it's now nerfed for this Wednesday. I think overall it is a great spec, although very different from the other specs. You have to run away whenever you don't have CDs, but whenever you have CDs to do damage, you just need to do leg sweep, and then the damage is going to carry you until eventually you're going to play versus a rogue mage, and you cannot really do anything versus that. Holy Paladin, I think they're still very bad in 2s because they do have to deal with a lot of dispels, and Disc Priest having a like mass dispel and such is making them a lot harder to play. There are a few matchups where you can do something like versus a rogue mage. You have a lot of tools to actually like delay the goes and such, and you can probably win with attrition. But versus like a Disc Priest, you're pretty much like useless. And then versus the rest of the druids, it's very hard to catch to do a stun, for example. So. And you're not very efficient as well. You are like very much very quickly. I'm going to put it in B tier. I want to put it in C tier, but B tier is for me. I think Holy Paladin is not bad. I do love it in 3s. I do love it in Soul Shuffle, but in 2s it feels like it runs out of steam because of the dampening. If dampening wasn't that high, I think it would be higher. But only utilities is not enough to win matches in 2s. Retribution Paladin. May be very controversial, but I think it's B tier. I think it's B tier. The CC is good. The defenses are a lot better than I would say season 1. Until 10.7, I think 10.7 really made them OP at every single aspect of PvP. But in season 2, with the crit changes, the CC changes, just in general, the self heals are also nerfed. They do suffer. Of course, they can win still matchups, and they can also do like double DPS and be pretty much good. But with a healer, which is something that is often not happening, you're going to suffer because you don't have a MS effect. Your healing is lower than before. They are very much hurt on crit. I think like since they crit a lot of things, having reduced crit on everything is lowering their DPS by a huge margin. Well, for example, a warrior, they can just build haste instead of crit and they'll be fine, for example. So B tier. I think better than Holy Decay though, but B tier is still a good spec, but not meta. Disc Priest. Do I put it in B tier or A tier? I think it's better than Preservation Evoker. I do think Mistweaver and Resto Druid is probably better. Although you have some matchups where Disc Priest is probably better than the healers, but 2v2 is pretty much like matchup heavy based. Sometimes you have like rock, paper, scissors kind of gameplay where people are going to counter you regardless. But Disc Priest has the damage, has the utility, has the pain suppressions and such, which again, it's a dampening mode. It will help, and I feel like having Purge is also very big. So for me, A tier, especially Master Spell too. I mean, Holy Paladin not getting like instant countered because of that. So for me, A tier is a really good tier for Disc Priest. Obviously, they are not like lowish. I think it's like middle of the road A tier, but still meta. Still meta. Holy Priest. Now they get buffs, but I have to judge from what I've seen because the buffs are quite substantial. I will remake this tier list once everyone got their set. So in 1 month time, you will get another tier set, another tier list with the discussion about the tier sets and how they are going to add value to twos, trees, and soul shuffle. Also RBGs, by the way. I always forget about that, but I'm doing also RBGs these days, so it's going to be very fun to do that as well. Holy Priest in twos, they do have the CC, they have the ways to be very annoying. I'm going to put it in B tier because I can't comfortably put a healer in C or D tier because I feel like often not if you're playing versus double DPS, it is often a win, except maybe Rogue Mage. So there are ways for you to actually climb, although very slowly, because if you're playing versus the metacoms, you're going to have a lot more difficulties to actually keep your mates alive and yourself also, by the way. Shadow Priest, very strong. I see it on Reddit that they do feel OP. I would not say OP. I would say that it is very strong. I would say that in twos you have some potential because of the damage that you can do and having to deal with one interrupt less, but you have some very annoying counters. I'm going to put it in A tier because I'm very much a believer of Shadow Priest. I think it's very strong, although very lowish A tier because they have counters. But it's very hard to put it in B tier where they're like dealing with fire mages and arcane mages. You all have purges, you have damage, you have again precog for every single caster. It's not very kiteable as well, the damage. Once it's locked in, it's locked in. Void Torrent doesn't really care about line of sight. So I think it's A tier. People might bash me on it because I do feel like Shadow Priest is very strong, but I can understand why you would think it's not. I think the CC, the damage, and everything combined is making Shadow Priest a lot better. Assassination Rogue, I would put it in C tier. I do not see Assassination Rogues at all right now. They still have some good comps, but they have some sick counters, which is Survival and so basically mending themselves or their allies. You have also evokers, like all evokers can actually like dispel also poisons and bleeds. You have pretty much just in general all of things to deal with, but also just the meta, which is Dark Arm Dwarf and Dwarves. So they can just dispel your goes, and in twos, having a go and not being able to do anything with that go is one of the most terrible things that can actually happen into a match of 2v2. Outlaw Rogue, I think it's better, although the damage is very low, but they have CC, they can deal with it. I'm going to put it in C tier, sorry. I think the damage is very low. I think it's too low to actually be annoying. It's annoying to deal with, but it's not like annoying to the fact where you have your healer actually playing catch up. That's not happening. The healer has one of the best times of their life playing versus Outlaw Rogue because the damage is very predictable and they do need something like extra. It's like not only a 5% more damage, it should be massive. Something should be massive. I mean, it should be a rework basically. but right now they have like a lot of problems. So for example, assassination rogue, they could like have a few tuning things and they might be good, but outlaw rogues, you will have to fundamentally change something big around outlaw rogues. Subtlety rogue is S tier. Like I said, it's the best melee. It's too strong. I think the resets are too strong. Yes, there is a difference between the worst ever subtlety rogue and the bestest of subtlety rogues, but even the world in between is S tier. I mean, if you can actually reset the first go anything, you are winning because you're going to drop every single trinket into one go, and not a lot of like classes and specs can deal with it. Of course, you have BM Hunter and Survival Hunter. They can actually sack themselves with the pet, but again, pets are also CCable. Cheap shot and that's it, right? And cheap shot is still a 4-second stun. Is insane. It's insane. I mean, it's I think the stun lock is even better now than before. Right now you can just like kidney shot into like cheap shot, she shot, and you cannot do anything versus that. Very strong. I think the burst is also insane. If its rate is doing 120Ks, it's actually like, again, I'm fine with it because Subtlety Rogue needed the damage, but it's very high. It's very high right now, and we don't even have to deal with forces. So imagine with the forces how it will be. I don't know if the force of Subtlety Rogue is good or not, so please do let me know in the comment section below. Elemental Shaman, I think they just suffer the caster syndrome in 2s. It's just not that good. I'm going to put it in C tier because they don't feel like they're having to cast, but they don't have like games where you would feel like you can win before dampening. Dampening is starting right away, and you're getting nerfed on Earth Shield as well. I'm a massive fan right now in 2s for Elemental Shaman. I'm a massive fan in 3s. I made a guide about it, so if you want to check that out. But in 2s, I feel like you miss a lot of things, and people can just line you constantly, and it's very annoying to deal with. You can play double DPS, but I would not recommend it. You're going to drop like a fly, and you would not like that. But I think like in general, it's C tier. Enhancement Shaman, I want to put it very high, guys. I'm playing Enhancement Shaman. I feel like it's strong. It is strong, and Burrow is a lifesaver. I mean, it is insane. I wanted to put it in S tier, but I think the lack of CC and the mortal wound effect is going to put them in A tier. I know in 3s I might put it in S tier because I think it's very strong. I think Turbo is one of the best specs, and you will see it in AWC if we are not like nerfed. I hope we are not nerfed. There's a lot of bias behind it, I know, but I hope we don't get nerfed. I think we do deserve a bit of limelight towards us. And it's not like we have defensives. We can die. It's just we can return the favor to you as well. So for that fact, I'm very happy about Elemental Shaman. The healing is very good. Damage is very good. The RNG is annoying, but if you can play around it, you are going to be golden as an Enhancement Shaman. And yes, your enemies are going to be able to kill you at one point, but I think Enhancement Shaman is one of the best specs in the game right now. Restoration Shaman, I think it's on the same level as Disc Priest. They have tools, they have interrupt, they have CC, they have the damage, lava burst, and Stormkeepers are hitting like a truck. And it's a lot easier to do on Lightning Lasso in 2s as well. Like, if you haven't seen a Fury Warrior with a Restoration Shaman, or even Arms Warrior, I don't care, they are like a machine. I think the only problem why they are not S tier is because there's a lot of annoying things, like for example, Subtlety Rogues, they can kill you into one stun. You cannot really wall stunned. So yes, you have Burrow, but it's a 2-minute CD, so I don't know. I think like Subtlety Rogue is just like one big gatekeeper right now. Affliction Warlock, C tier. I think it's too easy to kill. It's manageable. Yes, you have Observer. Yes, it gets nerfed. 8% health is going to be easily killable, by the way. but it's cheesy. I think cheesy specs don't really deserve any higher than C tier. I think in threes it's a lot better. I think in social you can do better, although your team is not going to let you scale. I think in general it's going to be still C tier, and I do hope for a rework. Demonology Warlock is S tier. I do not really want to talk about it. I think it's way too strong. I think the CC options are still there. The damage is still there, although not instant. It is still applicable and very strong, and it is repeatable. It's also one of the easier specs once you know how to play a caster, of course. And it's annoying to deal with whenever they are actually doing like a big tyrant and you are like in the open. You are going to suffer. You will have to run away very quickly. So for me it is S tier, and I think BM is very strong. Destruction Warlock very strong as well, but it's stoppable in twos because you have one interrupt less, which is also a lot less precogs. And just in general, the pressure is a bit less in twos because of pillars, because of the ways you can actually run away from the Destruction Warlock. While in threes with a Frost Mage and such, it's very hard to actually run away from a Destruction Warlock. In twos it is, and double DPS I would not recommend it. But if you have a good healer to play with in twos, you can have some massive games. So for me, it's going to be, I think I'm going to put it in A tier with the Shadow Priest. It might be lower though, because it's easier to line a Destruction Warlock than, let's say, a Frost Mage or a Shadow Priest. But yeah, I think it's deserved. Now on to the two last specs. I'm very tired actually. Arms Warrior and Fury Warrior. I think Arms Warrior is in a good spot, although nerfed. They have great tools to actually like kill many specs, but they do get countered by Sub Rogue and Mage together. I think not having access to a defensive while you are stunned is making it very hard for Arms Warrior to be pushing into S tier. So for me it's going to be A tier. I understand that people might rage because I put it in A tier, but I think personally having Diebar Sword versus, like, let's say Subtlety Rogue is cool, is niche, but he can also just vanish while you are in Diebar Sword. But in general, he can also just cheap shot you and you're going to stand still. So I'm not really happy about it. BM Hunter is also very hard for you to deal with. Survival Hunter, now they have a disarm, is also very hard to deal with. And Balance Druid in general, it is too strong. Yeah, so Fury Warrior, I'm going to put a bit lower because they don't have a 4-set. Remember, I made a prediction video for Fury Warriors in threes. I understand that people are like a bit disappointed if I do it a bit lower, but it is because I think it's strong, but they are very dependent on the 4-set to actually work as good as possible. So for me, it's going to be ahead of Retribution Paladin, but just below Arms Warrior. I think it's really close of A tier, but I think it's just not enough to put it any higher right now. Their Slaughterhouse effect is very cool. They have ways to actually deal a lot of damage and a lot of ways to actually be annoying. But dampening starting at 30% while your defensive is like self-heals is just a bit hard for you to deal with. So for me, B tier. So this is pretty much the allocations of every single spec. I have healers mostly in B tier and an A tier and an S tier. I have like Survival Hunter behind Subtlety Rogue, although it's a very skilled spec, so people can make it feel like a bit lower. Feral Druid and BM Hunter are still a staple in twos. You have Bounce Druid, which is surprising, but still a lot of damage. And Demonology Warlock, which they have a MS effect, they have the CC, they have the damage, so they can pretty much kill you. And overall, I think I'm very happy with this current tier list. Again, thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet. We will catch each other very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.